morning. How are you? I hope you're doing well and that you're enjoying your day. Are you ready for a fun, easy, wearable smoky eye that has a little bit of edge and bite using your Anastasia Subculture palette along with your LORAC Pro 2? Every one of these colors is fairly easy to do, but I have to admit I really appreciate when I see looks and inspiration with the Subculture palette, since it's kind of off the beaten path of being so dark in color, story, and pigmentation, and it's not like your everyday neutral palette. So this eye look is super fun on an everyday basis. I have a lot of versatility with it. So if you wear glasses, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on amping it up a little bit. And I also kind of wanted to walk you through, I'm going to have some clips of getting ready with me, but you see I'm wearing glasses. It's a little bit difficult to see in the mirror. So I'm going to talk you through some of the techniques that I've used, show you some of the demo of how I put on the makeup, and then we'll talk about the products I use. So for starters, as we get into this kind of get ready with me deal, I have noticed that when it comes to eye primers, not all perform alike when it comes to the Anastasia shadows, and the most success that I've had in the shadows lasting throughout the day is to go in with a concealer. And lately I've been going with the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer as my eye primer. I have tried several eye primers, but I have noticed tremendous fading throughout the day, or when I'm applying the eyeshadow, it will blend into itself. So there must be something about the Anastasia formula that it just doesn't play well with a lot of different formulas. But I do notice that it performs a lot better when I have some type of a base on my eyes. So go through with some concealer or your favorite eyeshadow primer. Give it a go. It may work for you, but I know that is a tip that has definitely been something I've kind of had to play around with and figure out what's going to work for me or not. Then in terms of shadow base, my LORAC Pro 2 Rosé shade is what I've really been gravitating towards. I wanted a super rose gold hue to my lid because I'm really going through and doing a lot of smokiness in the crease, but my shadow does not have the vibrancy that it once did because my palette is super old. So how I have combated that is I've gone through with the NYX Jumbo eyeshadow pencil in the shade Nude or Sparkle Nude. It's just a really basic shadow base, and it has that rose gold kind of champagne vibe to it already to enhance the rose gold tones in that rosé shade. So I'm just running this over my lid. You don't have to do this. The other option that you can try is foiling your eyeshadow, which is taking some setting spray or a little bit of water just to give it some moistness. I really don't like that word either, but just to give it a little bit of moisture so that you can easily glide it on over the lid and give it that strong metallic finish without having it be over the top. The other tip I wanted to share with you that has really been working for me, normally I typically use an e.l.f. C brush like this whenever I apply lid colors, but because that shadow is on the older side, I've actually had more success using sponge tip applicators. So I went to Ulta and I actually picked up a box of these months ago. This is the Beauty 360 single-ended applicators, and I use one side of it to apply my lid shade. In this case, I'm going through with the LORAC Pro 2 shade Rosé, but you can go through with any rose gold from your collection. I know it is a very easy shade to find in a lot of your neutral palettes. It's definitely on trend right now, so I'm sure that you probably have a rose gold in your collection. But what I'm basically doing is I'm quickly swiping the rosé shade all over my lid on top of that eyeshadow base to make a really intense rose gold eye. And I do notice that sometimes I have to go back in and build it up a slight bit because, like I said, I'm working with a really old shadow, so that has its downsides, but I'm making it work and I'm going to pan it and get through it. Then let's talk about our crease color. Because I have hooded eyes, I like to have a little bit of depth, a little bit of dimension, and also too, since I'm going through with such dark shades from the Subculture palette, I really wanted to have something basic. So if you're using your LORAC Pro 2 palette, I would suggest going in with the shade light brown. I'm taking a fluffy Morphe brush. This is the shade, or I mean the brush M441. It looks like this. And I basically just take that crease shade and run it very messily is not the word I'm looking for, but I just kind of run it through the crease. It takes down the hood of my eye a little bit so that it doesn't look so large and in charge. in comparison to my lid area. Other things that I'm kind of thinking of, if you don't have the LORAC Pro 2 palette, you can go in with the shade Dawn from the Subculture palette, but I notice on me it turns a little bit too orange with the way that it oxidizes, and I wanted something more traditionally brown. So I would suggest going with something maybe a little bit different, something like MAC Soft Brown, or if you have the LORAC Pro palette, the shade, is it Light Taupe in there? I don't remember off the top of my head, or Taupe. But again, it's a really easy shade that you can find in many of your palettes. Just a soft, easy, kind of a camely brown. You are good to go. Then the next thing that I'm doing is I'm taking my NYX Jumbo Eyeshadow Pencil in the shade Milk. This is a tip if you are a glasses wearer, or if you have hooded eyes, or if you're like me and you have both, because when I put my frames back on my face when I'm done with my application, I have to take a little bit of an extra step to really oomph up my makeup so that you can see what I've done, because since I'm nearsighted, when I put on my glasses, they tend to make my eyes look even smaller than they already are. And then also too, if I'm wearing a lot of dark shadow, I kind of need to beef it up a little bit. Otherwise, the glasses make it look like I didn't do anything at all. That's one of the complaints that we have as glasses wearers. If you put on makeup that looks great with your contacts, it looks like you're not wearing anything at all with glasses. You know what I mean? Like, the struggle is real. So what I do with this is I take it in my inner corners. I just kind of take that pencil and run it a little bit, and then I run it into my brow bone. It's going to look a little garish at first, but don't worry. Is what you're going to do is you're going to take your ring fingers and you're going to blend it up into your inner corner area to really brighten and open up the inner portions of your eye, and then to definitely accentuate your brow bone. I know that one of the tips that we get if you have hooded eyes like I do is don't emphasize too much on the lid or the brow bone, because otherwise it makes that space look enormous and then your lids look smaller. But it actually kind of helps to balance it out when you have a little bit more of a prominent highlight. And then, like I said before, with that soft brown, kind of tone down your crease area a little bit before you go in with the crease color. And that way you have tons of options to wear colorful shadows, wear deeper shadows, and you're not kind of stuck in that box of wearing the same tonal on tonal eye look on an everyday basis. So that I've noticed that that really helps me in the years of wearing makeup and kind of tweaking what I want to do and make my eyes look brighter, more awake, and bigger, where you can see the color whether I'm wearing glasses or whether I'm not. So I guess that's the other thing. If you're a glasses wearer, as you watch me put on especially the crease colors, it's going to look a little stark at first because I do apply my eyeshadow a little bit heavier, like I mentioned before, because once I put my glasses on, you can't see it. Unless I'm a little bit more dramatic with it on the onset. But definitely if you transfer your makeup between wearing glasses and contacts, you're definitely going to want to adjust your application technique, because the same makeup that you wear when you wear glasses is going to look, dare I say, a little clownish when you wear your contacts. So just kind of a tip for thought. Then the next thing that I'm going through is I've fallen in love with the shade Cube from my Anastasia Subculture palette. And I know that it's going to be a little bit challenging to see on the screen right now because I accidentally got a little too low in the frame to be able to see what I'm doing. But this shadow can be kind of a fussy product to work with. So I take the opposite end of my sponge tip applicator that I use for the rosé shade, and I go in with Cube, and I'm basically going over the same areas where I put the NYX Jumbo Eyeshadow Pencil in Milk to really give me a fun duochrome but brightening highlight. It's not white. You still get that shimmery pink and peach and gold vibe. It is super pretty. You can really build it up in your inner corner to give you a lot of depth and dimension across your eye, and then kind of take it more subtly on your brow bone. It is up to you. If I use a brush, the brush I prefer is to go in with something fluffy. This one happens to be from LA Colors. You can see that it has a flat brush tip on it. Just super easy. I know e.l.f. has one. Or if you go through with Morphe, if you go through with MAC brushes, there are tons of different options. This one happens to be my favorite with highlighting shades. However, that Cube shade can be kind of fussy to work with. So just go on and build it up to your heart's content. I've noticed that I need to go in several times and build it up because it's not a shadow that just kind of works easily. It is more of a topper shade, and so if I really want to get that duochrome goodness, I kind of have to layer it over and over and over again, but it is so worth the effort. Then the fun part, and this is where I've really kind of had to do a lot of learning along the way when it comes to the Anastasia palette, and that is this crease shade I love called All Star. If you are working with something else in your collection, I would go for a matte burgundy shade, or something that has more of a reddish brown to it. Just super, super easy. It doesn't have to be this exact shade, but I want to share this tip. If you are working with the Anastasia formula, the best way that I have found to apply it to my eyes and not be over the top or have crazy amounts of fallout is to stamp that color into your crease. It places better, and the other thing that I've noticed is if you try to start blending the Anastasia shadow, if you start trying to blend the Anastasia shadows, they blend into themselves and they disappear. So it's kind of a trial and error. Figure out what works for you. The brush that I have preferred the most out of trying different things has been the Morphe M433. This is the brush that I use. And I basically just stamp it into my outer corner and stamp it into my crease. I do blend it just slightly, but I try not to mess with it. And if I want to have a more intense application, since I know I'm going to be putting my glasses on, I will go back in and do a second layer, but definitely stamping it in, blend in just the slightest bit at the top so you don't have a crazy stark line going on your eyes. But other than that, that's been the least problematic way that I've noticed to use that shadow, and it minimizes the amount of powdery kickback that you have in your actual pan, because then you're gently tapping the brush into your pan before you stamp it onto your eye versus trying to swirl and hit pan, and you know the drill. So just very gently stamp it into your eye and you're going to do really, really fine. And that's the other tip I have, like for any Anastasia formula, honestly, is the trick is to tap it into the area. You want to place that color, leave it there, don't mess with it, and then work kind of around it. Going on that note, I like to deepen up my crease just a little bit, that far outer corner, and I'm going through with the shade Fudge from the Anastasia Subculture palette, but you can go through with any dark espresso brown from your collection. This one happens to be a little bit of a warmer tone, but again, I've tried it with deep espresso shades. I've tried it with warmer browns. I like this combination because it kind of offsets the All-Star and gives a little bit of warmth and depth to my eyes. And I'm going through with a Real Techniques crease brush shaped like this. It has a nice round dome on the top of it. It's a super stiff brush. You can find these at Target. I stamp it into the Fudge shade, and then I stamp it into the very outermost corner of my eye. Again, no blending. Just stamp it in, because I have tried to blend in the past and it makes All-Star disappear. And then it makes Fudge disappear because both the colors blend away into nothingness. I don't understand how that happens, but it does. So just stamp it into the outer corner and then layer it up until you have the desired depth that you're looking for. It is a super fun, super easy way, and it actually doesn't look as crazy across the eye, because I know at first you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, it's gonna look like I don't blend my eyeshadow. But it actually kind of blends itself in a very, very odd way. You know what I mean? So really super easy tip. And again, you can find this particular Real Techniques. I think it comes in a combo of this brush and maybe another eye brush. I know that I've seen a duo of it at Ulta. I've seen it at Target. Since you can buy this combination set at Walmart, it gives you a couple of options to go pick this up. And I think even CVS and Walgreens for sure, carries Real Techniques. But this has by far been one of my favorite brushes to use with really intense crease shades from Anastasia in particular. I'm going to continue using this as I go through more of those shades in that palette. Then, just to give a little bit of zhuzh, a little bit of added dimension to the look, I'm going through with the shade Roxy, and I'm taking just an everyday kind of fluffy crease brush. This one happens to be from Bare Minerals. I've owned this for years. I very gently tap it into Roxy, and then I blend this shade into the top of my crease to give me a little bit of warmth, a little bit of depth, a little bit of dimension, and I don't want a harsh orange line. But as I blend it out, I get that slight bit of orangey vibe, but at the same time, that's what's kind of working to blend the harsh line between the all-star shade, and then the fudge shade, and that little bit of the brown that I have in my crease, because it makes it more subtle because it's blending into itself. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But super, super easy, fun way to wear some orange eyeshadow. I have found that that's the most flattering way for me to do it, because otherwise with my hooded eyes, it can make them look really swollen. It can make me look really sickly. But I appreciate that I'm taking these very, very dark, intensely pigmented, opaque colors, but make them a little bit more flattering for my skin tone. And then it kind of offsets with the rose gold a little bit. Even though you don't think that rose gold and orange would necessarily go together, they look really, really pretty when you have that space in between of such dark shadows. Then one of my favorite things to do, I have really, really been loving dark, dark purple eyeliners. Holy cow. So the product that I want to talk about is this cream gel eyeliner from Revlon. It is in a very dark aubergine color, but again, you don't have to use this pencil. If you have a dark plum liner from your favorite brand, go for it. Because what I do is I'm taking this across my upper lash line, and then I'm setting it with that deep, deep plum shade from the Subculture palette called Rowdy. I adore this combination because it is super saturated, it is super dark, but it's not a black eyeliner. You've got that little bit of zhuzh, and if you have brown eyes, if you have green eyes, this is going to boost the gold fleck kind of base that you have in your eye color, making them look really, really bright and pretty and fun. And again, with that kind of burgundy shade that we have going on in our crease, you're rocking kind of the jewel tone vibe to your smoky eye instead of doing boring basic brown. It offsets that maroon really well in your crease along with your eye color, and then it plays well with the orange because they are opposites on the color wheel. So that Roxy shade that we have going on in our crease to the rose gold on our lid, it is just a stunning combination. So take your favorite plum liner and go for lining your upper lash line, and then set it with the shade Roxy. I go on and set my liner because since my eyes are hooded, I have transfer no matter how great the formula is. So it gives me an instant way to kind of use some of the shades, but also to make sure that my liner is not going to go anywhere during the day. And the brush that I use to set it is actually another Real Techniques eyeliner brush. I believe it came in that set with this crease brush, now that I think about it. I don't know. I've had these brushes a long time, but I use this to set that upper liner on my lash line with the shade Rowdy, and I just love, love, love it. And then I'm taking that very same liner on my lower lash line, the same, and I forgot to tell you the color. The color of this is called Cashmere Plum. And it's getting harder and harder to find this particular formula. I mentioned this in my makeup bag recap, but I think Revlon has decided to go a different direction, because the only place I've been able to find these pencils, if you're wanting just a super soft, easy way to do your eyeliner, is via Amazon. I'm not finding them in drugstores. I'm certainly not finding them on the Revlon website. So it was kind of just a blip on the radar, and maybe they didn't sell as well, and Revlon's just decided to can it and go with something else. But this is truly a fantastic formula. I'm very sad that they have chosen to walk away from that. But in any case, I'm still using it on my lower lash line. And I wanted to go back in and reincorporate my LORAC Pro 2 palette. And so I'm using the shade Plum to give me a little bit of a brighter purple on my lower lash line. I'm taking an e.l.f. eyeliner brush like this. It's super, super tiny. And I basically stamp that plum shade onto my lower lash line. So I still get that purple vibe. It's still intense. It's still dark. But there is contrast from the Rowdy shade on my lash line, on my upper lash line, to the lighter plum shade on my lower lash line. So I still get that dimension, but again, I'm bringing out the gold and the brown on my eyes. I'm offsetting that maroon shadow in my crease. I'm playing off the orange that's going on to blend out the shadow, and I'm also playing into the cube shade that's going on in our inner corner on our brow bone, because that shade has all those duochrome tones of pink and peach and gold along with the white. So it really, they all just play well together. If you have not tried that combination yet, I highly recommend it, because it has been crazy fun. And then again, easy take on a rose gold smoky eye, which is super trendy right now. So it makes it very, very wearable if you're still dealing with cold weather makeup, to transitioning into spring makeup when the weather gets a little bit warmer, because it's fun, it's quirky, but at the same time it is still quite neutral. And that goes for the eyes. Then kind of, I'm going to talk you through what's going on in the rest of my face. Bronzer wise, I have gone through with my NARS bronzer in the Sunwashed formula. It's the lighter version. Sunwashed formula of Laguna. It's just super, super easy. I go through and I run this on the perimeters of my face. Blush, I am wearing my Clinique Cheek Pop in the shade Cola Pop. I wanted to, again, kind of bring that burgundy vibe to the rest of my face. I really love this blush. I'm trying so hard to hit pan. And let me tell you, if you follow my Project Pan videos, this is like no joke. I tried poking a hole just to see how deep this really goes because I've been working on this blush literally for years. And it is deep. Like, I stuck a metal spatula tool down in the middle of it, and it was like, it took a while to get to the bottom. So there's a lot of product in this particular container. The other thing I wanted to talk about highlighter wise, because I like the duochrome finish of Cube on my eyes, I actually recreated a version of Cube using some Bare Minerals shadows, and I tossed in a couple of other things. So what I did was I took the Bare Minerals eyeshadow in the shade Serene, and I added a little bit of the Max Gold Bit, because the Serene shade already had kind of that white pink base. You know what would be another good option to start a dupe, now that I'm thinking about it? If you have the Too Faced chocolate bar in the semi-sweet version, the second one, Pink Sugar, that would be a really good base, because you could add a little bit of white to it, a little bit of peach, maybe a little bit of gold, like a white gold. Ooh, that'd be pretty. I wish I would have thought of that, because that shade, you know, is typically so problematic. Just the genius ideas. So if you're wanting to kind of create the shade on your own at home, that's what I would do. Make a loose version of Pink Sugar. Go through if you have something really, really kind of a, let me get it out for you so I can show you. Because the shades I went in with to mix in with that shimmery pink, because the Serene shade is kind of similar to Pink Sugar from the Too Faced palette. I went through with a little bit of Max Gold Bit right here, because as you can see, it's kind of a really bright, peachy, champagne-y color. So that would be a good suggestion. I took the tiniest little bit of Spread the Love from the Too Faced Peanut Butter and Jelly palette, just to give it a little more of a duochrome effect. And then if you have a really, really bright like white gold, that'd be really pretty. So I've basically gone through and I've made a dupe to the Cube shade. It's gonna look a little bit pinker on camera than it is in person, but I go through with this because I get the exact same payoff. I use a Real Techniques highlighting brush, and I use this to dust all over my kind of highlighting areas on my face, on my cheeks, down the center points of my face. And then if I want to, I'll go in and touch up my inner corner highlight with just a little bit more of this. It is stunning. And this is going to be kind of what I start working on after I'm done with that Cube shade. So I wanted to share that tip with you. And then in terms of lips, I have tried a lot of different combinations that I have loved. I've gone really bold and vampy. I've gone really neutral and nude. The combination that I have today is one of my favorites that I have been loving, and it's giving me inspiration to go through with a gloss, which I'm typically not a gloss fan, but I was inspired by Ashley Elizabeth because she recently panned this Marc Jacobs gloss in the shade Changes. And so I thought it was an expensive gloss. I wanted to go in and use it. And so what I have going on my lips today is I went through with my MAC lip pencil in the shade Whirl. That is an easy staple. Mauve, My Lips But Better, super, super easy. You can go through with Milani's Natural, or if you have a just a My Lips But Better kind of liner in your collection, you're good to go. Then I topped it with MAC's Velvet Teddy. It's an easy matte nude lipstick, kind of has a little bit more pink to it. I'm already thinking if you have the Wet n Wild Bare It All lipstick, it is very, very close to this nude. So it's not like a nude lipstick. It has a little bit more pink and a little bit more beige to it, but it's super easy and flattering to wear on an everyday basis. And then I'm going through with the Marc Jacobs Changes gloss just in the center of my lips. And what I love about this gloss, even though I'm not typically a gloss fan, is if you look closely at it, there are flecks of blue and green in this gloss. And so when you put it on the skin, it's really, really reflective. And the other thing that I appreciate about it is it kind of offsets my eye a little bit, because it brings out the rose gold in my eye, but it also works well with the plum, and it doesn't contrast with the orange that I have going on in my crease. So it kind of takes my eye look from looking a little bit more on the warm side to being more neutral, if not kind of take a cooler tone vibe, because my glasses are really warm with the warm tones kind of going on in the bottom. But again, when I wear a lip gloss like this, I can go in and wear a gray shirt and it looks great. Or I can go in and wear like a cooler tone plum for the day and it looks great, or a navy. And I don't have to worry about my glasses looking too warm or contrasting. But then I can also go through, like today, I'm wearing warm copper earrings. I'm wearing a lot of burgundy and plum on my shirt, and it works. I can wear it with super warm tones, but wear it with super cool tones, and like I said, it just goes together. So easy, easy, easy. The other lip combo that I've loved is Wet n Wild Cinnamon Spice, which is kind of more of a burgundy tone. It looks kind of like this shade going on my shirt. Sorry if you can hear my dogs in the background. I've also loved wearing a super nude lip like MAC's Honey Love over the Milani lip liner in the shade Spice, just to give it a little bit of warmth and depth and dimension. I've also worn it with just a basic gloss. It's super, super easy. So I hope that you try it out and have just as much fun with it as I have. It is a staple go-to. I've appreciated it shaking up my makeup bag a little bit to wear a smoky eye, but go with colors other than black and brown. You know, embrace those plums, embrace those burgundies, embrace those oranges, and you can still have a really like trendy eye look, but it's sophisticated and classic at the same time. So have fun with it. Let me know how it goes. It'll get you back into your subculture palette, along with that oldie but goodie, the LORAC Pro 2. Because again, like I always kind of appreciate when people bring out these old palettes that we've long forgotten about and just kind of re-inspire us to go back into them. So I hope that this video did that for you, and have lots of fun with your makeup. So thank you once again for your time, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. See you later.